Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're taking a deep breath and cracking open a concept that really goes against, well, the flashy highlight reel culture we're all swimming in. We're talking about the subtle, deliberate, and maybe even antisocial art of being completely predictable. Predictable in your quest for excellence.
Yeah, it sounds almost boring, doesn't it?
Right. But we've got a fascinating stack of sources for you today, all kind of centering around this provocative core idea. It's best summed up by the title of our main source. Predictable discipline yields inevitable excellence. Now, if you're like most people, you probably look at excellence and think, okay, it must involve some spontaneous genius, right? Or maybe extreme, kind of erratic effort.
And that assumption, that's exactly what we need to challenge today. So our mission for you, the listener, is to really dissect this idea. The idea that genuine lasting power, whether it's money, health, reputation, whatever, stems not from chaos, not from those rare bursts of inspiration, but from, well, boring, non-negotiable routine.
Yeah.
We really need to dig into why most people chase that lightning strike moment instead of just, building the tracks for the train.
Okay, let's unpack this, because
Yeah.
when you look at our cultural heroes, the rock stars, the tech founders, the famous artists, what's the story we always hear?
It's a chaos narrative.
Exactly. It's always about the chaotic explosion or that sudden, unpredictable flash of inspiration. Sometimes it's even like the dramatic public meltdown, right? Which we then label passion or genius.
Yeah, the all-nighters fueled by pizza.
Totally. We romanticize that intensity.
But the sources we looked at, they're incredibly blunt about this chaotic view of success. It's unreliable, it's weak, and ultimately it keeps you broke. It's just a terrible strategy if you want anything to last.
Okay, why though? What's the fundamental flaw?
Well, think about it. When you rely on chaos, what are you really relying on? Your mood, circumstance, having this bottomless well of emotional fuel. You're essentially asking for high-performing results while feeding the system random volatile inputs. That just doesn't work. Not in physics, and definitely not in achieving anything meaningful long-term.
Okay, but I have to push back a little here. Isn't there a risk? If everything is predictable, don't you kind of lose the ability to innovate? Doesn't creativity need some spontaneity? The sources almost sound like they're saying consistency equals rigidity.
But that's the key distinction, isn't it? It's about predictable discipline freeing you up for chaotic creativity. That's the argument. You make the process boring, maybe mundane, so the results can actually be revolutionary. You're not automating your thinking. You're automating the low-value stuff, the execution, so you have the mental energy left for the high-value creative work. So true power, whether it's in your bank account, your physical shape, your reputation, it's predictable precisely because it's built on predictable inputs. Excellence becomes predictable.
So the surprise isn't the consistency itself. The surprise is the sheer scale of what that consistency eventually produces. The goal is to be so predictable, so, boringly reliable in your commitment that the huge results become the only thing people talk about.
Exactly. And the sources use some really great contrasting examples to nail this down, mostly centered on trust.
Okay, like what?
Let's start with the gym. It's super visible, easy to grasp. Who actually earns your trust and respect? Or an employer's trust, or even your own self-respect?
Yeah.
Is it the person who shows up once a year on the Saturday, has this heroic 8-hour session, lifts everything in sight, and then vanishes for the next 364 days?
No, of course not. It's just a flash in the pan. You know that's not sustainable. It doesn't build anything.
Precisely. The person who gets the real results and the social capital that comes with it is the one who's there.
Yeah.
In the weight room, 6:00 a.m., 5 days a week, no fanfare, just there, year after year. Their commitment is a known quantity. You can factor it in. You basically know what they'll achieve, what they'll look like 6 months down the line because the input is consistent.
Right, and if we take that same idea into, say, the business world, the stakes are even higher. Who gets the big, critical, multi-year contract? Is it the company that had one amazing, record-breaking sales month,
Right.
but then followed it with 6 months of just chaos? Missed deadlines, communication blackouts?
Or is it the business that delivers high quality, reliably, on time, every single quarter for a decade? I mean, the choice is obvious, isn't it? Predictability builds reliability. And reliability, well, that's the ultimate currency in any long-term game. When you're predictable, people can build around you. They can depend on you. If you're chaotic, you're basically a liability.
Which brings us to this really interesting side point the sources make about why society seems to push this myth of the chaotic genius so hard They argue it's largely the media.
Oh, absolutely. The chaotic story sells, right? It's dramatic, it's entertaining. We watch the blow-ups, the sudden breakthroughs, the meltdowns because it's compelling television or reads well online.
Yeah, drama gets clicks.
Exactly. And the media kind of benefits from keeping people focused on the spectacular, the outlier. Because the truth is grinding, often boring discipline, it's just too simple. It's too hard for most people to actually do consistently. And honestly, it doesn't offer much drama for an audience to consume.
Yeah.
If you admit that success is mostly just showing up every day, well, that forces you to ask yourself why you aren't showing up. It's less comfortable.
Huh. That makes sense. So the moment you accept that truth, that discipline is boringly predictable, then success stops being just a possibility. And it starts looking, well, inevitable. And this leads us right into the how-to, the mechanics of it all. How do you actually achieve this predictable discipline? The sources say it hinges on removing emotion.
Yeah. And the strategy is almost surgical in its simplicity. It boils down to this. Commit to executing the exact same, say, 3 high-value tasks every single day. And here's the kicker, regardless of how you feel.
Okay, high-value tasks. That sounds good, but let's define that, because most people's days are just crammed with tasks, emails, meetings, admin stuff. How do you rigorously pick the 3 that actually move the needle, especially if you have to do them every day?
Right, that's crucial. You basically apply the 80-20 principle to yourself, to your own actions.
Right.
A high-value task is something that directly builds your wealth, your health, or your knowledge, the core pillars, and importantly, it can't easily be delegated.
Yeah.
So for a writer, it's not organizing files or checking social media stats. It's writing 500 new words, period. For a salesperson, it's not the internal planning meeting. It's making 10 cold outreach calls. You have to pinpoint the actions that generate like 80% of your desired long-term results.
Okay, identify the vital few.
Exactly. And once you've identified those 3, you protect that time like it's sacred. This whole process just strips emotion out of the equation. You stop leaving your progress up to the roll of the motivational dice, as one source puts it. You don't wait to feel fired up or inspired to do the important stuff. If you do that, you're basically gambling with your future. The predictable person doesn't need motivation because the task is scheduled. It's allocated. It's become non-negotiable, part of the contract with yourself.
So it really becomes about self-integrity then, keeping your word to yourself. You said you'd do it at this time, so you do it. That alone must build some serious self-trust. And I imagine that consistency reduces decision fatigue too, that constant internal debate about should I or shouldn't I?
Oh, massively. Think about it. Every morning, the chaotic person wakes up and has to renegotiate everything. Should I work out today? Maybe tomorrow. Should I put money aside? Oh, but that sale looks good. Should I make that difficult call? Nah, I'm not feeling it. That constant negotiation is exhausting. The predictable person, they already paid the price of that decision way back when they set the schedule. The task just gets done. Because it's 6:00 a.m. and 6:00 a.m. is runtime, or it's 3:00 p.m. and 3:00 p.m. is deep work time. Non-negotiable.
Right. And once you build that internal reliability, that predictability starts acting like a shield, doesn't it? Against all the external friction and temptations that constantly try to pull you off course.
Exactly. It's a shield.
Can you give us some concrete examples? How does this shield work in practice?
Sure. Think about small, everyday compromises. The predictable person doesn't skip their planned workout just because it started raining. Why? Because the decision Tuesday's workout day was made yesterday or last week when they were calm and rational. The bad weather today is just irrelevant noise to that prior commitment. Or similarly, the predictable person doesn't blow their budget just because some shiny new gadget popped up in an ad, triggering an impulse buy. They stick to the financial plan that was made with clarity, not based on a fleeting desire.
So they don't renegotiate with the temptation of the moment?
Precisely.
Huh.
The source material uses this great metaphor. The predictable person becomes the immovable object against the unstoppable force of temptation and laziness. They just refuse to bargain with bad moods, fleeting impulses, or sudden distractions.
That's a powerful image, the immovable object. And it's important to stress this isn't about becoming some kind of unfeeling robot, right? It's about building this incredibly solid foundation, this core strength, so that when those external forces inevitably push against you, and they always do, you can actually withstand them without wrecking your long-term goals.
Exactly. And that foundation is absolutely critical because let's face it, the underlying assumption here is that life is unpredictable. Stuff happens. So now we need to shift focus slightly from just the daily maintenance aspect to actual crisis management because the sources are clear. The unexpected will happen, the chaotic opportunity, or more likely, the chaotic crisis. That's the real test.
Right. So if you've spent your whole life just riding these sporadic bursts of energy, living on that motivational roller coaster, what happens when real chaos hits? The market crashes, or there's a sudden health scare, or a massive competitive threat appears out of nowhere.
You panic. You respond with fear, with disarray. You're depleted before you even start tackling the problem itself. You've got no reserves, financial, physical, mental. You might have to pull an all-nighter just to cope emotionally, let alone solve the actual crisis.
Whereas the predictable person,
The predictable person responds with force, not fear. That's the payoff. That's the huge advantage built up over years of that, boring consistency. While everyone else was burning energy randomly, you were steadily, quietly building reserves. You were preparing for the storm you knew would eventually come.
and those predictable habits, they actually create tangible weapons, as the sources call them. Tools ready to be deployed the moment crisis hits. Let's list those out, because they're not just abstract concepts.
No, they're very real. We're talking about, first, financial reserves, built through predictable saving and investing. Maybe it's that 3 to 6 month operating buffer for your business, which lets you pivot during a downturn without desperate measures. Then there's physical resilience, built through that consistent, predictable training. When major stress hits, your body doesn't just collapse or get sick immediately. It can handle the pressure.
And maybe the most crucial one, mental clarity. When chaos demands fast, high-stakes decisions, the predictable person isn't scrambling to figure out their basic daily routines. That's automated. So they have the mental bandwidth free to actually think strategically, to see the situation clearly. These are literal tools that let you act decisively when everything else is spinning out of control.
That's exactly it. The predictable person doesn't suddenly start trying to get in shape or save money when the crisis hits. It's too late then. They've already been doing those 1, 2, or 3 high-value tasks, and usually one involves financial health, another physical health, predictably, for months or years. Their tanks are full when the emergency light comes on.
Okay, so bringing this whole deep dive together then, the big takeaway seems to be stop admiring the sporadic fireworks, the 8-hour heroic sprint followed by 6 months of nothing. Instead, start building the unshakable, maybe even utterly boring routine, because excellence, real excellence, is predictable.
And that final thought from the source material is just so powerful. The ultimate sign of real, durable power. It's when you've managed to make your own future success the most boring, inevitable conclusion in the rim. That quiet confidence, that inevitability, that's where true force lies.
Wow, that's compelling. Actionable, too. And honestly, yeah, a bit challenging to the way we usually think about success. So maybe the final thought for you, the listener, is this. If predictable effort is the key to generating force when chaos hits, what's the one boring, non-negotiable routine? Maybe one of those top 3 high-value tasks that you'll commit to starting today. What's the first block in building your own immovable object? Think about that commitment and the force it could let you generate down the line. We'll see you on the next deep dive.